Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to 2018. It is a new year, a new season, a new time. I am truly excited. I don't know about you. Just glad to make it into another year. And here we are on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. And I'm actually riding solo today. I know, imagine that. I'm actually riding solo. But the good news is I'm actually going back to my original format, which was me sharing, making you all great leaders, getting those wheels turning, getting those thoughts going. So I will be returning to that. Not to say that I will not have guests. We definitely will have guests because the purpose is to show you how you can practice the things that I teach on the radio in every arena. So that's the purpose of having guests, to magnify those thought processes, to show those things in execution. So we definitely will have guests, but my goal this year is to really churn out the next change agents, the next leaders, the next managers, all that good stuff. So I will be sharing and expounding upon leadership in all its totality. So you can look forward to that great content again that I was once giving. Not just for nonprofits, but for for-profits as well. Just showing you how to get things going, how to get that ball going. So we're going to start with that today. New year, new you, new me. I know it's so cliche to say that, but it's the truth. New you, new me. The goal this year is to get you guys to really get up, really start those businesses, really start those nonprofits, because, hey, the world needs them, especially those nonprofits and especially those for-profits. All these great ideas we're sitting on, all these great thoughts that we are too scared to execute. I'm going to show you how to start executing and implementing those things. So today, day one, show number one, that's where we're going to start at. So, how do people start businesses? Businesses typically start with a great idea or a great concept. So how do you know if you have a good idea? Well, I'm going to tell you today. So we're going to jump right into it. This is what I call the idea checklist. So if you're sitting around and you're trying to decide, hey, is this really a good idea? Is this something I should really do? Let's go over a checklist. All right. So first up is, if you have an idea, does it solve other people's problems? So let's say you have, and I do have an example. So I'm going to make this really easy today. I'm going to show you just how fast, I'm going to walk you through just how fast an idea can turn into a business. So don't worry. Y'all know I like examples. I actually even have one. I have a very good example, and it's so simplistic that you're going to be amazed. You're going to be like, oh my God, I did not know it was that simple to actually have to execute this idea. So, all right. Does it solve other people's problems? So if you have an idea, the likelihood of it just being something that will cater to you is not very likely. If you have that problem, other people probably have that problem as well. Next question, do a lot of people have this problem? Again, if you came up with a concept or you came up with an idea, the likelihood of it just being something that caters to you is not very high. What you will find and what you will discover is that if you have that problem, other people have that problem too. The next question. Am I passionate about the idea? Now, this is where it gets very, very tricky. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the passion for the idea that you have, then nobody else is probably going to receive what you're doing because you don't believe it. And in essence, that's what passion is. Passion is that drive, that unseen force that will push you when nothing else motivates you. Passion is that thing that's on the inside that keeps telling you to go when you want to stop. So you have to ask yourself, with the idea that you have, am I passionate about this idea? If I run out of money, if I run out of resources that are in my direct view, do I feel like I'm going to keep going? Is what I feel on the inside strong enough to keep me going and to push me and propel me to keep going to execute or implement this idea? So you got to answer that question. And I'll cross that over even into the jobs and careers that we have. You definitely want to make sure that going into 2018 or being in 2018, that the things you're doing, the things you're thinking about, the things you want to do, that you have the passion for. There's nothing worse than going to a job every day that you hate. There's nothing worse than building a career that you hate. So you definitely want to make sure that you have the passion and the drive and the ambition to fuel you through or get you to where you want to be. Because there's nothing worse than building a career or moving up in your job, getting to that point where you want to be and realizing, I don't even like doing this. This is not something I want to do. And you'd be amazed at how common that ideology is, that people realize they get to the epitome of where they want to go, or the self-actualization stage, and go, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not what I thought it was going to be. This is not where I want to be. So you have to make sure that when you start a process or a journey, that is something you're passionate about. And how do you know if you're passionate about? Okay, well, can you sleep at night? Does this thing keep you up at night? Because I've had a lot of friends like, I have an idea and I just can't sleep at night. I just can't put the pen and paper down. That's passion. With your job, do you want to get up and go to, now, let me throw this out there. With jobs and careers, even with owning your own business, there are going to be times that you just don't want to be bothered with them. It's going to happen. But the question is, are those days few, far, and in between? Or are those the bulk of your days? If you have a job and the bulk of those days, you just like, oh my God, I just don't want to go to work. I just don't want to clock it. I don't want to be bothered. And it's for stretches of time, for extended periods of time, then it's time to consider doing something else. And again, passion crosses all boards, all boundaries. Passion is passion. All right, next. This is a big one. Am I willing to commit the next 5 to 10 years of my life to this idea? Let us remember, a lot of times, most businesses, you will not turn a profit in your first year. Now, I know things have changed, but, I think that's still a good standard to measure by. Now, some people are fortunate enough, they have great ideas, they break even, they bring in revenue their first year, but most companies, and I would say probably on an 80% scale, probably don't. So, you've got to get past that first hump. Then you get into the second year. And in that second year, you may break even. You may not necessarily turn a profit. Then you get into that third year, where now you have a better understanding of what you're doing, but you're still trying to figure some things out. So by the time you turn around, 5 years has passed. And if you don't have the passion or the ambition or the drive to really stay in this when you're not turning a profit, when you can't understand what's going on, when everything is going to crap, if you don't have that commitment or you haven't made that commitment to those 5 or 10 years, this may not be a great idea. It may not be a great plan. Next question. Are others successfully doing something similar? Now, let's not limit that to start trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's not what the question is asking. It's saying, if you decide that you want to do and let's pick a simple one. Let's say that you want to start a hair salon. And that's not say simple, a common one, especially for, the Atlanta area being a hair place, the hair capital, one of the hair capitals of the world. You say, hey, I want to start a hair business. Well, in your area, are other salon owners or other barbers being successful at it? Now, that doesn't limit to say that just because others haven't been successful, that you won't be successful. But it just kind of give you an idea. Hey, are other people being successful at doing hair? Friends, associates that are in that area, are they happy? Are they making money? Are they happy? Is it something they're enjoying doing? You kind of want to look around and analyze those things. Or next question, does it have too many competitors? Again, is the market saturated or oversaturated? What does saturation mean? Think about it this way. For those of us that have, hopefully most of us are using washcloths or sponges or things of that magnitude to exfoliate our bodies or take showers and baths. If you have a washcloth, and most of us know that a washcloth, if it doesn't have water or stuff on it, it's very flimsy, it's dry, it can kind of be flung all over the place, stuff of that magnitude. If you take a washcloth and you put that washcloth under water and it begins to soak up that water or become saturated with that water, it's no longer easily flimsy or, you can't maneuver it as easily as you once did. It's that same ideology when we're talking about business. And you say, well, is the market oversaturated? Think of that washcloth. Is there a lot of people in that particular area making it saturated, meaning it may be a little harder to maneuver into it. It may be a little harder to find the resources that you need. It may be a little harder to get into the area you want to be into. Is it impossible? No. But it's a question you have to ask. Is the market oversaturated? So there's your example for saturation. So when somebody asks you, when you go to present your market plan or you talk about your idea to people who are in the business arena and they say, well, is the market oversaturated? Think about that washcloth. Undersaturation means that washcloth, it doesn't have water in it. It can be maneuvered easily. You can kind of do what you want to do with that washcloth. Oversaturation is when you put that washcloth under water and it becomes saturated with water and it's not as easily maneuvered or moved. So that's how you can distinguish when somebody says this. So now you know. If somebody asks you, hey, is that market saturated or oversaturated or is it undersaturated? Think about Ricardo giving you the example of the washcloth. All right, easily. Like I said, I'm giving you guys examples today because I really want you to get these concepts. Next question. Can I do something substantially different or better than others? This is where you start getting into specializations. Again, with the hair thing, let's say that you look into the hair arena, and you see that in your area there are already 7 hair salons or barbershops. Okay, well, there's another option. You can say, well, because you're going to have to go over all this for your business plan. That's one of the things you're going to have to look into when you start doing your research for your business plans and for your marketing plans. Who are your competitors? You may have to do a SWOT analysis, strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threats. So these are the kind of things you're getting ready for when you get ready to do a business plan. So all the stuff that I'm going over, it may be worded a little differently, but this is all the kind of stuff you're going to have to do for research when you get ready to do your business plan and your marketing plans. So again, I'm getting the wheels turning so that you can start thinking about these kinds of things. So okay, let's stick with the example of hair. If you see that there are too many salons, you see there are too many barbershops in your area, well, you can say, well, my passion is for doing hair. But there are quite a bit of barbers and hair salons in my area. So what can I do? Well, you start going a little deeper in your research and you discover, okay, there may be 7 hair salons in my area, but only 2 of them specialize in quick weaves. All right, so now you found a specialization that will distinguish you from all the other 7 hair salons in your area. So that's how you want to think when you get into. Just because a market may be saturated doesn't necessarily mean there's not space for you. So I want you to think that way. Sometimes you may have to do a little more research to discover your niche, or you may have to come up with a specialization so that you can maneuver your way into that arena that you really have a passion for and want to be into. Never discount passion, because again, passion will fuel you when nothing else will. So never discount passion. Next question. Can I build the business? Now, this is when we start getting into resources and and nest eggs and how much money you have and how much capital you have and things of that magnitude. All right, so the next question is, can I build the business on my capital resources? What does that mean? Do I have resources at my fingertips that will allow me the opportunity to actually invest or actually make this dream become a reality? Friends, family, angel investors, partnerships, all those good things are things you want to think about when you are thinking about what you have at your disposal, what kind of resources you have at disposal. And again, resources are not just limited to just money. You know, do you have people that may be willing to barter services? Do you have people around you that will be interested in making donations to what you're trying to do? Do you have people around you that may want to invest, family members, friends, small businesses, things of that magnitude? What do you have at your fingertips? And you might want to take an inventory. Sit down, look at family members. Hey, sometimes we have rich uncles and rich aunts that we don't even think about because we're used to seeing them at the family reunions, and now you realize, hey, I got an uncle who has a little change. Doesn't mean he has to be rich. He may have $1,000 or $2,000 he wants to invest in something, and that something could actually be you. So you want to think about what's at your disposal. And a lot of times we overlook what's in our direct view. Look at family members, look at friends, look at associates, look at people who are doing what you may want to do. Some of them may actually want to invest in your companies. But we're going to take our first break. And like I said, hopefully I got your wheels turning. When we come back, I'm going to actually go into the example that I have that you're going to actually love, that is going to get those wheels going. So stick around on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. All right, everybody, we just got through our first segment where I was getting those wheels turning. When I come back from break is when I'm going to get into my example of Timmy and the ketchup. And I promise you're not going to miss it, but it's going to really, it's going to open your eyes, because I'm going to show you just how simple and how fast an idea can go from just being an idea to being something substantial and actually getting your business off the ground. So everybody stick around. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I promise. But just to do a recap, because we are on break, with those ideas that you have, again, a quick recap, do a lot of people have this problem? Are you passionate about the idea? And that's the biggest thing. You have to have passion to really get your idea off the ground, to really drive you. Because let's be honest, for those of us who are entrepreneurs, like myself included, there are many days where, you don't see resources. You're having to fork out money. You're having to invest in your business. And a lot of times you will ask yourself, is it really worth it to continue to do what I'm doing? So you have to have the passion, because the passion will fill that gap. That passion will bring it home when nothing else. When you can't see anything, you can't feel anything. People are not vested in what you want to do. People don't want to buy into what you want to do. That passion will allow you to find new avenues, to come up with new thoughts. Will keep you innovative, to get those ideas going, to get that business, to keep that business going. So you definitely want to think about those kinds of things and keep that in mind when you're doing what you're doing, or when you're in the beginning processes or the inception stages of your business. Because again, very few people start out the gate making money. Very few people start out the gate, getting that revenue going, even breaking even for that matter. I know we have social media and all that good stuff, but what many of you entrepreneurs will find with social media is that it's a full-time job. It's an absolute full-time job. All right, so we're going back. All right, everybody, we are back with this week's edition of the Leadership Blend, and I call today's episode the brainwashing episode, where we're reprogramming you to think differently, to operate differently, to maneuver differently, to move differently. Change that business swagger you want to have to get you in the right direction. So in the first segment, I was going over the idea checklist to kind of give you an idea if the idea that you have is a good idea. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this practical for you. Because a lot of people, when I've learned in last year that sitting down with people, sometimes we overanalyze things, or we make things a little more difficult than they really have to be. So today I'm going to walk you through an example, and it's going to be a very simple example, and it's going to be funny, but it's going to be effective. All right, so in this example, I'm going to go over how Timmy, and shouts out to my cousin Timmy because it was the first thing that came to my head, how Timmy took an idea, something simple that came about just from his everyday life, and turned it into a business. Okay? All right. So we have a family, and our character's name is Timmy. All right. So Timmy's home one day, and he's trying to feed his nephew Johnny. So in the process of trying to feed Johnny, they're at the dinner table, and Timmy's trying to feed Johnny. Timmy's feeding him, for lack of a better analogy, we'll say hot dogs. Timmy's feeding little Johnny a hot dog. So he goes to put ketchup on the hot dog, and little Johnny is like, I don't want to eat it now. And he's like, but you like ketchup. They later discover that little Johnny does not like the color of ketchup. He doesn't like red, but he loves ketchup. So while sitting at the dinner table, they make this discovery. So Timmy goes, if little Johnny loves ketchup, but he doesn't like the color of ketchup, what can I do to make him eat his hot dog? Because he doesn't like ketchup. He loves ketchup, but he doesn't like the color red that's in ketchup. So Timmy thinks about it. He's like, well, you know what? If I have this problem, maybe other people are having the same problem with their child. Their child may like ketchup, but they don't like the particular color red for their ketchup. So Timmy ponders the idea. A couple of days gets past. He tries to feed Johnny again. They take Johnny to the doctor for whatever reason, and the doctor confirms, yes, little Johnny loves ketchup, but he doesn't like red. So he can't have the red dye that goes into ketchup. So Timmy continues, his wheels keep going, and Timmy's like, you know what? I think if I have this problem, other people have this problem. So going over our idea checklist, that was one of the questions. Do a lot of people have this problem? Or does it solve other people's problems? So Timmy goes, well, you know what? If I'm having this problem, other people are having this problem. So Timmy takes the idea to step 2. So Timmy goes, okay, who would be having this problem like myself? So Timmy thinks about it, and Timmy goes, well, if I'm having this problem, even though it's my nephew, parents are probably having the same problem with their child. So Timmy goes, okay, well, if parents are having this problem with their child, how can I find out if they're having this problem? So Timmy thinks, and he goes, well, where do most parents go if they have children? Well, he thinks about it. He comes up with daycares. Most people who have kids are taking their children to daycares. So Timmy goes, okay, well, I need to get the information that I need to tell me whether most people are having this same ketchup. So Timmy thinks about, okay, he's discovered that his market would be parents primarily, because parents have kids, and adults eat ketchup as well, but right now he's focusing on kids. So Timmy decides, okay, so now that I've discovered where I should be, or where my target audience is, and there's that word, target audience. What is a target audience? Target audience is the group of people that you would say, if nobody else purchases or buys my product, this particular group of people will purchase my product. So in this example, Timmy goes, well, again, I'm talking about kids and the fact that some kids can't have the dye that's in red ketchup, but they love ketchup because it's a condiment. And as they mature into adults, it's a condiment they probably are going to want to enjoy. So Timmy goes, okay, so now I need to get the research to confirm or deny that there is a market or a group of people, again, target audience, that will buy what I want to sell, which is what he decided is to have different colored ketchups. Because he's realized that kids love ketchup, but some of them may not be able to have the red dye or just don't like red, but they want the condiment ketchup. So Timmy decides, okay, now that I've discovered that I want to cater to kids, and I discovered that I have this problem with my nephew, parents probably have this problem with their kids as well. So he discovered that he wants to go to daycares to find out, if people are having this problem. So now Timmy has to decide what is he going to do to get the information that he needs. So there are a number of ways, and again, we're using it as an example to show you how practical this can actually be. So there are a lot of ways you can get your research. So Timmy can do a survey. Timmy can do a focus group. And let's simplify this. So what is a survey? A survey is you create a couple of questions and you poll or you go out to the people that you're particularly going to market your product to, and get their feedback. What is a focus group? A focus group is where you get a number of people, anywhere from 5 to 10. You put them in a room and you ask them questions and you poll their responses to that question. So Timmy decides, okay, well, hey, I'm going to do a survey. So the next thing that Timmy has to think about is what kind of survey is he going to do? He can either do a written survey where he actually writes the questions out, or because we have technology, he types the questions out and then he prints out those questions and he goes to a couple of different daycares. And as the parents are coming in or dropping their kids off, he says, well, hey, can I ask you, 5 questions? And again, when you're doing a survey, if you're going to do a live survey, which is what he's going to do, you don't want to have too many questions because you don't want to try people's patience. Remember, you want to get people to have good responses. You want to have people to have good energy. People are not going to have good responses and good energy if you try to bombard them with 20 questions. So you want to have 5 good questions. Why do you want to have 5 good questions? Because again, with a survey, you're trying to compile questions and responses to give you a snapshot of the target audience or your demographic. Let me give you a quick example of a demographic. A demographic is an age group. Okay, and we hear it all the time. Well, I hear it all the time. When I say, people say, well, I have an idea or I want to do a business plan. And I say, well, who's your target audience? And they give me that deer caught in the headlight look. And I'm like, okay, well, what is your demographic? And they still give me that deer caught in the headlight look. So a demographic is, let's give an example, age groups. So you can say, hey, my demographic is ages 10 to 15. Or my demographic is ages 15 to 20. Or my demographic is ages 20 to 25. Or 25 to 30. And again, we're talking about people who are primarily prone to purchase or buy your services or your product. And again, you definitely want to do the research, which is what we're going into now with Timmy and the Ketchup, to get the information or the feedback you need to give you a snapshot or a vision of what the people that are going to be purchasing your product. So let's stick with the example of Timmy. So Timmy decides that he wants to go to daycares and he wants to poll the parents. So Timmy comes up with his 5 questions. Or you can do 3. Again, it's all about what you're trying to find out. So what Timmy is trying to find out is the age groups of the parents that he's typically encountering, so he decides that he wants to do ages, let's say 25 to 30, because he figures that from the age of, and actually let's make it a little broader. So he decides to do the ages 20 to 30, because he figures that in that age group, a lot of kids, and he did the research for his area. And he discovered that a lot of parents are between the ages of 20 and 30, and most of those parents have 1 to 2 kids. So he decides that that's a good place to start asking for his survey. So he does his research, and he discovers 3 or 4 daycares. Now, let's throw in some other variables because it may not be that simplistic. So let's throw in some other variables. So Timmy has to do a little more research. So Timmy decides, okay, he lives in Georgia, and he lives in, and I'm going to throw myself in a little bit. He lives in Georgia, and he lives in Cobb County. So he goes to, let's say, cobbcounty.com, and he goes on their website, and he looks up the demographic for Cobb County. And again, when we're talking about demographic, we're talking about age groups, we're talking about ethnicities, and you can find all that good information on your county website, your state website. You can find all that information. You type in like I said, for this one, we'll say Cobb County, probably cobbcounty.gov or something like that. You go to there, you'll look up demographics or something to that magnitude on their website, and they should give you a breakdown based off the census for that area. So Timmy goes on cobbcounty.gov, and again, I'm just throwing that out. The easiest thing to do, if you don't know, use a beautiful thing called Google. And I will say this, when you're trying to get that information, always go to a government website. Government websites end in .gov. So you'll go to cobbcounty.gov, and again, I'm throwing that out there, or you'll go to Google and type in Cobb County, and it should take you up, and you'll look for something that says something along the lines of cobbcounty.gov. He clicks on that, he finds the information he needs, he discovers that in Cobb County, the demographic is this. I'm not going to throw numbers out because they probably be wrong, so I'm going to refrain from throwing numbers out. But he gets the information he needs. He discovers that the demographic is this. He discovers that the Hispanic population is high, the African American population is high. He gets the percentages. So from looking at those numbers, he makes a decision. All right, so Cobb County is, and again, I'm throwing out an example. From this example, he discovers that Cobb County is very diversified. So in that, he says, okay, well, I want to make sure that I cover a diverse group of people. So when he makes the decision to go to daycares, he looks at those specific demographics. So he decides he wants to have a daycare that caters to Caucasian Americans, African Americans, Hispanics, and he makes sure that he polls for a small sampling 3 daycares, and he makes sure that those 3 daycares have a diverse group of kids. That way, when he goes to do his survey and his polling, his sampling and his responses will be diversified. Why do you want to have diversified responses? Because it gives you a better snapshot of what you're dealing with. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, feel free to call in because, again, this is to get those wheels turning. 404-355-8699. Definitely would love to answer questions, give you some feedback because this is an example, but I want to get your wheels turned and show you that it's not as scary as it seems. All right, so we're going to continue on with the example. So he's chosen his 3 daycares. He's did his survey, and let's go over some survey questions really quick. So again, the purpose of your survey is to help you get a better idea of what your demographic could be or will be. So you definitely want to make sure that you ask, and you definitely want to put a disclaimer into it as well. So you want to say, it's not for discrimination purposes. It's just for polling purposes, just to get an idea of a project I'm trying to do. You definitely want to put that disclaimer out because you don't want anybody to think that you're discriminating or trying to single out one particular group of people. So you definitely want to put that disclaimer out there. But Timmy creates one question that asks, what is your age? How many kids do you have in your household? He could kind of ask ethnicity, and be careful of wording. So he may ask, what is your ethnicity? And those are just 3 questions. And then, of course, if you're going to have 5 questions, your other 2 questions are going to be, how do you feel about condiments? Does your child like ketchup? So those are just 5 questions off the top of my head that Timmy decided to use for his survey. So Timmy has done his research. He's chosen his 3 daycares. And he's already created his survey. So Timmy's already halfway there. So Timmy decides, he picks a day, and again, he's kind of scoped out those 3 daycares. He's talked to the daycare providers to find out what's the good drop-off time, and he's gotten permission. Again, remember, you have to get permission to do a survey if you're going to do a live survey. So he's went to those 3 daycares. He's talked to the owners or the operators to get permission so that he has the permission to actually go to these daycares and have them and make the solicitations to have them answer these 5 questions for his survey. All right, that's a lot. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue on with Timmy and the Ketchup. I promise you it's going to be fun. Stick around. The Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. All right, everybody. So we've gotten to the example of little Timmy and the Ketchup. And I know people are going, oh my God, Ricardo using the silliest example, but it's an effective example because, again, with Timmy and the Ketchup, Timmy identified a problem, which the problem was his nephew just loves ketchup but doesn't like the color of ketchup. So from that problem, he came up with a solution. What is the solution? The solution is, why don't we create somebody should create ketchup that is not necessarily limited to being red. So after he discovered the problem, which is again kids not being able or not liking the color red or being able to digest the dye that's in red ketchup, he identified that problem. He came up with a solution. Somebody should create different colored ketchup for kids who love ketchup but can't have red dye, which is the primary color of ketchup. And then he just asked himself, was he passionate about the idea? And he, thought about it, did the pros and cons, and discovered that he is passionate about, wanting to move forward with the ketchup. And not just because he loves ketchup, but because he feels like it's a legitimate problem. And he can the solution that he's come up with, will bring him fulfillment because kids who, love ketchup can't eat it. So his passion is not just for making money off this product because he's going to soon discover that the market is open for this product. But his passion is to be able to provide kids with options so that they can enjoy ketchup as much as he does. See how simplistic that was, just that quick? And that idea from this example came from him being around the kitchen table with his nephew and him discovering that his nephew does not like the color red or cannot have the dye colored red that goes into ketchup. And that's how simplistic, a idea, and that's how quick an idea can go from being just an idea to an actual feasible business or business plan. So we're going back on the air now. All right, everybody. So we are back with this week's edition of the Leadership Blend. And again, we're getting those wheels turning. My goal, I hope somebody walks away today going, okay, that was the silliest example I've ever heard, but I get it. I understand, how I can take my idea from being just an idea to an actual, something I can actually execute to not only bring in finances, but to actually fulfill you and take you off that job you may or may not like. Because at the end of the day, most of us, we're on jobs we may or may not like. But and let me throw this out there. Everybody is not going to be an entrepreneur. But just because you don't want to own your own business doesn't mean that the idea that you have may not be something that somebody around you may actually want to pick up and y'all partner together. Let us not forget there are partnerships. People go into business together all the time. So don't just dispel your idea just because it may not be something you're passionate about. Or because you may not be passionate about it, but somebody around you, a business colleague, an associate, a family member, y'all may be having general conversation. They go, you know what? I love that idea. I wanted to do that idea, but I don't know how to execute the idea. And you may say, well, I have the same idea, but I'm not passionate enough to fuel the idea to actually take it the long way. Just that fast, you can make a partnership because they have what you don't have and you have what they don't have. So again, don't dispel an idea just because you don't want to own your own business. You may be surrounded by people who who have the same idea that you have, and they may actually have the passion to be the face of that idea. And you may have the passion to be the money behind the idea or to be the resources behind that idea. So don't dispel something just because you don't want to be in business, because it still could be $1 million idea and you could be a partner in that idea. Just a little tidbit. Like I said, my goal today is to get you thinking and to get those wheels turning. Because for a lot of us, that's what stopped us last year. We were too afraid, or we thought it was just too hard to take an idea from just being an idea to something that can be executed or implemented to become a business. So again, let's continue on with the example of little Timmy and his nephew Johnny and the ketchup debacle. All right. So when we left to go on break, just to do a recap from the beginning really quickly, with the example that I'm using, we have Timmy, and Timmy's feeding his nephew at the dinner table. It's a Friday night. They're home. They're at the dinner table. Timmy's trying to feed little Johnny ketchup. Well, little Johnny's eating a hot dog, and Timmy goes to feed him ketchup because he knows that he loves ketchup. They discover that little Johnny does not like the color of ketchup, and upon research, taking him to the doctor and stuff of that magnitude, they discover that little Johnny cannot have the red dye that goes into ketchup. From that problem, Timmy comes up with the idea to create colored ketchup for kids who can't have the red dye that goes into ketchup. So just that fast, and that was just on a Friday night, just in the house, Timmy discovered a problem, which is kids loving ketchup but can't have the dye or the color red in their ketchup. And he created a solution to that problem, which was to see if any company has created ketchup in different colors for the kid who can't have red dye or just don't like red but love ketchup. Problem identified, a solution is offered. So from that, he starts going down the business process. identifying a target audience or a demographic. And in this particular solution, Timmy lives in Georgia, in particular Cobb County. So he goes to the Cobb County website, .gov, and starts looking at the research or the demographics of Cobb County. What is the population? What is the age group of that population? What is the ethnicities of that population? What is the income? Let us never forget income. What is the income of the average household income of that population? And again, you can get all that information from your state website, from your county website. That information is somewhere on their website. And if it's not there, they have numbers that they provide that you can call to get that information. Remember, the internet is a beautiful thing when you understand how to use it properly. Google is a beautiful thing when you understand how to use it properly. You just got to remember if you don't remember anything else I say, remember this. When you're doing research, and that research is government-based research, always go to a .gov or a .org. So, and what does that mean? You always find a website that's www.blah.com.org.gov. .gov.org, especially .gov for government agencies, is where you want to start. Because you will find a lot of stuff when you do a Google search, it will bring up a lot of results. But if you're looking for research purposes, you definitely want to do .gov, especially if it pertains to trying to find out things about a county or a state or stuff of that magnitude. Always pick a .gov. It's a safe bet. That means it's a government maintained website. All right. So keeping with the example, we've identified the problem. We've offered a solution. So now we want to see what our target audience is and our demographics. So with Timmy in the example of Cobb County, Timmy went on the website. He did the research. He discovered the ethnicities, he discovered the age groups, he discovered the household income. So now he has a snapshot of what he's working with. So now he wants to do some field research. So for that, he looked at he wanted to keep his sample size small. So he looked at 3 daycares, and he made sure that those daycares catered to diversified groups of kids. So now, once he's identified those 3 daycares, he definitely wants to have a sit down with the daycare owner or the operator or the general manager of the daycare. Why does he want to do that? Because there's nothing worse than you showing up at somebody's place of business soliciting their customers. That is a no-no, especially without talking to them first. So Timmy went to the 3 daycares. He sat down with the owners. He sat down with the operators, and they approved him to come show up and do his survey. So Timmy picks a day, because while he was sitting down with them, he was like, hey, will you allow me to do this? This is what I'm trying to do. They said, okay. His next question is going to be, so tell me, what are your prime times? And they go, well, our prime times are typically in the mornings when parents are on their way to work, or it's typically in the afternoons when parents are coming to pick their kids up. So Timmy decides, okay, well, I'm going to be out there at about 7:30. So from 7:30 to 8 o'clock, I'm going to do one set of surveys, and from 4 o'clock to 4:30, and again, this is just an example to show you how fast this can happen. So, and from 4 to 4:30, I'm going to go back and do another set of people I may not get in the morning times. So he sets his days, he sets his time, and before he does this, he says, well, you know what? I want to poll about, we'll say, 20 to 30 people. And again, that's a small sampling. I want to do 20 to 30 people. Now, let me give you another option, because some people are probably saying, well, I don't want to write anything, and I don't want to have to sit down with all these papers and write down the results. Well, there are other options. There is a program called SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey, the last time I checked, was free, and it will allow you, I think, up to 5 questions. So let's say Timmy decided to go the alternate route. So Timmy decided, okay, he did it the first go round, and he was like, yeah, this is a little hard trying to write this stuff down and then having to compile this stuff myself. So Timmy says, you know what? I'm going to use SurveyMonkey. So Timmy goes to SurveyMonkey, and like I said, with SurveyMonkey, I think they'll give you up to 5 questions free. So he takes those same 5 questions, he goes to SurveyMonkey, he inputs those 5 questions, and hey, what does SurveyMonkey do? SurveyMonkey will allow you to create your survey. It will give you a link for your survey. You can take that link and post it on your social media. You can take that link and put it on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you want to put that link. And what you tell people is, hey, I'm trying to do a survey for blah, 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 XYZ. Can you please click this link and take my survey? Once they take that survey, SurveyMonkey will automatically place the answers to those questions in a queue, and it will go ahead and break the answers up and let's say he uses the same question. So one of those questions is age groups. So for every person that takes that survey, for question number 1, which is what is your age, SurveyMonkey will take all the ages from the people that did the survey and classify them for you. I know, simple, right? Easy, right? So when little Timmy's done, he goes on SurveyMonkey, he looks at the responses. SurveyMonkey has done all the hard work. So, ta-da. Now, those 5 questions has given Timmy a better look at what he's working with, because there's nothing worse than shooting in the dark. And you want to eliminate margins of error. And I know many of you have heard me say that, throw that term out there before. Margin of error says, I've done my research, and I've done that research well enough to be able to alleviate and eliminate the likelihood of there being a lot of errors in my research, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. And again, if it doesn't, feel free to call 404-355-8699. Happy to answer questions, love feedback, all that good stuff. So again, going with that, Timmy has his research, he has his responses, and again, he has a snapshot that's telling him out of the 50 people that responded to your question number 1, 20 of them were between the ages of 30 and 35. 10 of them were between the ages of 20 and 25. Another 10 of them was between the ages of 40 and 45. And based off the status quo, or the majority of the responses that SurveyMonkey has classified for him, Timmy discovers that the bulk of the people that did his survey, we'll say 50 people, the bulk of them, primarily we'll say 30 people, were between the ages of 25 and 35. So it's not an end-all, be-all, but again, we're talking about margins of error. And based off his research that he did, that's what he came up with. So his margin of error is not that high, because he didn't take a guess and say, oh, well, I think, blah, blah, blah. Research is not about what you think. Research is about what do numbers show you, what does your research show you. That is what true research is. The results that you've gotten from doing proper examination, proper analyzing from things of surveys, focus groups, all that good stuff. And remember, a lot of this stuff is free. So don't make it hard. A lot of it's free. It can be done on SurveyMonkey. You can do a focus group. Now, let me cover a focus group really quick. Let's say, for example reasons, let's say that Timmy decided he wanted to do a focus group. How would he do a focus group? So this is one of the very rare times you do not want to limit your focus group to your family members. You definitely want to make sure that you have a diversified group of people for your focus group. So you want to get maybe some colleagues. You may want to get you do want to get random people, to represent. And remember, the goal of a survey, a focus group, all these researching techniques is to get a diversified group of people. So you want to solicit people you may not necessarily know, per se. So with this focus group, let's say that Timmy decided to do 20 people in his focus group. So he gets a couple of friends, a couple of family members, not very many, and a lot of people that and this is the power of social media. So I want to throw this in. This is the power of social media. So he puts up a Facebook status and he says, hey, I'm trying to do a focus group because I'm thinking about testing a new product. Who would be interested? So just from his people and his Facebook, he gets 30 responses. So he invites them, he goes through a couple of their Facebook pages to kind of see where their heads are, who they are, get an idea of, would they be good candidates for his focus group. And he sends them inbox messages. Hey, the focus group is going to be on this day. We're going to be having it at this place. Would love to have you come. So he solicits 20. We'll keep it small. He solicits 20 people. Those 20 people show up. He gives them those same 5 questions. But he decides he wants to ask them from behind a double pane glass. I know that's really 007. But we're going to put this on pause again because we have to take our last break. So when we come back, we're going to go to the next phase of his marketing and how he decides to market and where he wants to be. So stick around. The Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. All right, everybody. So hopefully you are learning something. Hopefully this is giving you an idea of how practical it is to take an idea from just being an idea, something you've tossed around the house, to being an actual company or an actual business. Because as we've seen from the example with Timmy, and I am spending a little more time in research because research is very important. So you definitely want to make sure that you discover a way by which to do your research and actually execute or implement that research in a good manner. Definitely, because it will make a difference in your market research and all that good stuff. So you definitely want to make sure that you're doing that. Definitely want to make sure that you have taken the time to decipher what's best for you to be able to get your research done. So definitely want to make sure we're doing those things. Continuing on, because we are kind of still going because I'm on break. Some of the other questions from the idea checklist, and I'm going to go over this checklist in the last segment, just with the example that we're using. The biggest thing I definitely want to make sure that we're keeping in mind is, are you willing to commit to this idea for the next 5 to 10 years of life? Because that's very important. Because if you feel like this is not an idea you're not passionate about, there are going to be days, and I cannot stress this enough for entrepreneurs, there are going to be many days, numerous days, where you're going to wonder, is it worth it? Do I really want to keep doing it? Is it worth it? Things of that magnitude. So you definitely want to make sure that you're willing to commit 5 to 10 years of your life to this idea. Another question I didn't get to, and this is a kind of I'm going to throw this question out there, but don't let this limit you, because one of the questions is, do I have a background and skill set compatible with this type of business? Don't let that limit you. But it is a question you have to ask. All right, everybody, we are back to the last segment on today's brainwashing episode of the Leadership Blend, getting those wheels turning, getting those thought processes going. Again, I did today's show, and I use this example because I want to show you how practical it is to take an idea from just something that that you come up with around the dinner table to it being an actual marketable idea or actual business that can actually bring in money or fulfill your passion. All right, so we're in the last segment, so I'm not going to be able to finish this example, but I did want to get this example going. So let's recap. All right, so in the example that we have, we came up with Timmy and little Johnny, and they're at the dinner table on a Friday night, and Timmy's trying to feed little Johnny. He has a hot dog, and Timmy's trying to feed him ketchup. So Timmy tries to feed him ketchup and discovers that little Johnny he loves ketchup, but he doesn't like red, and they later discover that he can't have the red dye that goes into typical ketchup. So Timmy identifies that problem, and he comes up with a solution. And his solution is, well, if I'm having this problem, other people are having this problem, so why not look into creating ketchup that's not just red, but it comes in other colors and other variations. So he's identified his problem, and he's come up with a solution. So from that, he starts doing the research to decide if this idea is a good and marketable and feasible idea to maybe turn into a business. So when we left on the last couple of breaks, what I was doing was giving you a breakdown of how you can find out if an idea is a good idea or not. So with this particular scenario, I was saying you could do a survey, and that survey could either be old school, which means it's on paper, where you actually come up with the questions and go down to places to get answers to those questions. Or you can do an electronic survey where you go to a program like SurveyMonkey and you put those same 5 questions in, and SurveyMonkey will allow people to take the survey and then classify their responses to create a printout and give you the snapshot that you need to decipher what your target audience is or what your primary demographic will be. Now, again, we're talking about margins of error, meaning no research is 100%. But if you do the proper research and get the proper feedback and solicit the proper people in your area, then your margin of error will not be high, meaning that the likelihood of you missing your target audience or your demographic when you create it based off your research is not very high. And again, you want to shy away from the I thinks, because I thinks do not fly in business. Yeah, we want to know what you think about your idea. But when it comes to you creating your business plan, we want to see some actual numbers. And you base those numbers off market research. You base those numbers off things that I just threw out there, focus groups, surveys, things of that magnitude, is how you create good, viable information to be able to put into a business plan. So again, let us not, dispel what I'm trying to get you to understand, because all this stuff is the kind of stuff that goes into market plans and business plans. Target audiences, demographics, SWOT analysis, all that good stuff. So when you do this kind of groundwork, you set a very strong foundation so you can pull from it. And at the end of the day, anything that's going to make your life easier, I assure you, you want to do. All right, so Timmy has knocked down the problem. Timmy has knocked down or come up with a solution to that problem. Timmy has just done his research to come up with a possible demographic and a possible target audience. So now Timmy wants to get into, and again, really quickly, let me run this parallel to the idea checklist that I started the show with. So the first question was, does it solve other people's problems? Yes, it does. Because the problem was creating a product for those kids or adults, he will later discover, or adults who cannot have the red dye that goes into ketchup, but they love ketchup. Do a lot of people have this problem? Well, after Timmy did the research, he realized that out of his the target audience that he came up with and the people that he polled to do his survey, he discovered that 75% of the people that took the polling had that problem. Is he passionate about the idea? Now, again, that passion is not limited to just the product. Timmy discovered, because Timmy loved his nephew, Timmy has a love for kids. So that passion for kids will fuel him to be able to create a product that may be catered to kids, but adults can benefit from as well. So that passion for kids will give him enough passion to be able to execute this plan to create this product. Timmy sat down and said, well, hey, do I really want to spend the next 5 or 10 years of my life to this idea? Now, again, that's not going to be just limited to, the kids and things of that magnitude. Timmy has to look at the future. If this jumps off the ground, is he going to want to create an empire based on ketchup? And he decides, hey, I love kids. He actually loves ketchup. So he says, hey, I have enough passion to fuel me to do a ketchup business and to fuel me to do this for kids. All right, so in doing his research, I'm not going to be able to get into that today, but the other question that I asked in the beginning was, are others successfully doing something similar? Well, Timmy looks into one of his biggest competitors, which would probably be Heinz or Hunt's, because I think both of them make ketchup. So we'll say Hunt's. So he looks into Hunt's, and really quickly, how do you decipher if your competitors, especially if it's a big competitor who's been around for a long time, and they're considered a conglomerate, are they being successful? Well, you want to go to their website. So Timmy decides to go to Hunt's website because he discovered that Hunt's would probably be his biggest competitor. So he goes to Hunt's website and he goes into, I'm trying to think, what is it called off the top of my head? He goes to their website, he goes around their websites, and typically they have to post their year-end dividends, quarterly reports, things of that magnitude. So he goes on Hunt's websites and he finds their quarterly reports. He looks into it, and what he's looking for is to see if they were able to turn a profit and how his business been for the last couple of years. So for the sake of this example, let's say that he does that, he finds it, and he discovers that Hunt's has been doing quite well with ketchup for the last couple of years. So to answer that question, are others successfully doing something similar? Yes, he discovered that Hunt's is being successful with their ketchup line. So he goes to his next question. Does the ketchup market have too many competitors? Well, quick research. He runs into his local grocery stores. And again, this is just a synopsis really quick because I want you to keep thinking after today's show. He runs into the grocery store. He looks down the ketchup aisle. He sees that the ketchup aisle is filled with Hunt's, I think Heinz, Greater Value, and grocery store brands. Kroger, Publix, things of that magnitude. So we'll say 4. So just based on, and that's just a snapshot to keep you going. Just based off that, he goes, you know what? I think there may be space for me. Then while he's in the grocery store, he looks to see if there are other different colors or different variations of ketchup. And he sees there's not very many, if any. So just based off that, now of course he's got to do more research, but just based off that small snapshot, he realizes, hey, there may be an actual market for different colored ketchups. So the next question, Can he do something substantially different or better than others? All right, well, we've identified that he's trying to do different colors of ketchup, and he's done some quick research by going to the grocery store and realizes that there are no other variations of ketchup but red. So he goes, you know what? I can do different colors of ketchup. So there clearly is a market. Now, how big that market is, he's going to have to do more research. But just off the dome, he realizes, hey, my idea is a good idea. The market is kind of open just based off what I've observed just quickly. So yes, I have a viable idea. And the last question, can he build a business off his capital resource? I'm not going to get into that today. We'll go into that next week. And next week next week we won't be able to do it because I actually will have a guest next week. Next week we will have Jeremy back with us again. Jeremy is my college preparation person. So he's going to come in to get you guys ready and prepared to get your child ready for college because we're in spring. So now is the time. You really should have started in fall, but you definitely want to get it going for spring because it's almost time for them to start applying for colleges. Actually, they should be applying for colleges now. But if your child has not gotten there, Jeremy Harp is going to get us ready next week. So I'm going to end this example there. Hopefully you gain something from it. Be on the lookout. Great things are happening this year in my final segment. Great things are happening this year. I actually will have a book coming out in the next couple of weeks called Calculated Conflict. Yay me, I'm very excited about it. It's a leadership book for all you individuals who want to benefit or learn how to be great leaders, but you don't want to go to school to do it, but you want to be able to sit with those big wigs. Calculated Conflict will be the book for you. Check out my website, www.ricecommunity.com, Rice with a W. Actually started a leadership blog. So the stuff that I talk about, you will actually be able to read on my leadership blog, which you can get to from my website again, ricecommunity.com, Rice with a W. So all this leadership stuff I'm going to be discussing this year, you will be able to see it and read it. So definitely check out my website. Everything that I'm doing, you will be able to see there. Would love to have you come through. Check it out. Check me out. Next week again, Jeremy Hart will be here to talk about college preparation for your college kid or your high school senior or junior. Check me out next week, same place, same time on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. Have a great week. All right, everybody, that wraps up another episode of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. Hopefully you learned something today. Hopefully you saw how practical and how simplistic it is to take an idea from just being an idea to being a profitable business or a nonprofit or a for-profit. All those different areas. And next week, I won't be able to continue, but I probably will continue on a Facebook Live again. You can check out my Facebook Live on Ricardo Ricky Rice, Rice with a W. You can check anything out on my website, ricecommunity.com. Every time I say Rice, it's WRICE. So do not type in RICE. You won't be able to find me. WRICE, ricecommunity.com. Like I was saying on the air, I have now created a leadership blog that will contain everything that I talk about on the show will be in that leadership blog. Every week, I'm going to put up 1 or 2 areas of leadership that you might want to learn about, different concepts, different theories, stuff that I've learned. And those that don't know, I have the 4 degrees: a bachelor, associate's, bachelor's, master's, almost finishing a doctorate. My doctorate is going to be in leadership, so it's something I'm passionate about. It's something I definitely want to execute and implement. So my book and my blog are definitely to help you individuals learn how to be better leaders. So hopefully you enjoyed today's show. I will see you next week, same time, same place on Leadership Blend with the host, Ricardo D. Rice. Have a great week.